Hello, everyone. How is everyone doing? For those of us in the Midwest, how has the snowstorm been treating you? Definitely a blanket of sparkly white out there, and where I'm at, we have just over a foot of snow and a coating of ice on top of it right now. It's been kind of one of those challenging days with delivery driving and seeing kind of the ramifications of conflicts. So I was going to record this on Monday, but with everything, it's primed for me to go ahead and do it now. And then you'll probably all see this on Sunday by the time I record it. But this is going to be talking about the free will way of shifting the paradigm and a little history of that. And it's going to be from a celestial being named SaLuSa. And SaLuSa will introduce himself during the channeling part. But before we do that, let's do kind of an activation. This is kind of a more setting boundaries protection activation, because the energies right now, especially if you're in a larger city, with the macro, a little protection will not hurt you. Probably recommended at this point. So, all right, let's go ahead and get into this. Let's go ahead and do a few inhales and exhales. And I have the tiger's eye in here and some obsidian. That's going to help me in this message and this guided meditation. So go ahead and breathe in. If you can, exhale out through the mouth with a sigh. And let's do one more inhale in, and then we'll hold it. Go ahead and hold it. And then exhale out. Now let's do one more, and then we can get started. Inhale in. Hold it. And exhale out with a sigh. And then from here on out, breathe in through the nose and out through the nose if you can. That may be challenging for me today with this cold. My sinuses are all messed up right now. But we're going to get into it. I want you all to visualize that there's this orb around you. And for each of you, this orb is going to be a different color, and it may be of many colors. And this orb is not really anything that's outside of you. This is the boundaries of your own energy field. And each one of us has this. Torus is what they call it in physics, particle physics. And this boundary, everything inside of it is what is of us. And some of us have challenges with things of other people, other energies kind of getting sticky and stuck in there. So this is going to be the part that'll help with that. I want you to visualize a flame. You're going to open up your hands like so. And you're going to see a flame. And this is going to be a violet flame. Archangel Michael is coming out in this. And this flame is inside your orb, inside your energy field. And this flame is going to be turning into what almost looks like a laser beam, or like on those old radars, where it just goes around from a single point, and that's going to start from your heart. So you're going to kind of see what almost looks like a beam going straight out to the end of the energy field. Now I want you to visualize that beam kind of going into multiple beams from top to bottom, kind of like a prism with light, except this is all going to be violet and white. The white flame is coming in from, we're going to call it the celestial being, because I don't have another name for it right now. But we're going to call this divine energy with protection. And I want you to visualize that this is now sweeping clockwise in your energy field. And what this is doing, if you're witnessing it, anything that is not of you is being singed away. Because in your own energy field, this is the one area we all have control over. So breathe in again. And exhale out. And this is going to go all the way around to a full 360 from your heart center. And going from top to bottom, left to right, in a clockwise fashion. To clear out anything that's not yours. To clear out any of the energies from the day and in this reality. Even from looking at social media and the news. This cleansing doesn't really feel anything. What it's going to do is make you feel a little bit lighter. And notice now that it's gone it's completely done. And now just put your hands out like so. And you're going to then visualize that what was this kind of prism beam going all the way in your field is now outside the field. And it's kind of like this, like on a gas, we'll call it a gas fireplace for lack of a better term, but like in restaurants, they have the outside seating with the gas fireplace kind of thing. And instead of being the gas along a line there for that fireplace, it's going to be the whole outside of your energy field. And this is going to be violet, but the center of each of the flame, of these individual flames all around this, is actually black. And this is coming in from Kali Ma, or Goddess Kali. This is the protection barrier between the Abrahamic, the violet flame, and then Kali, the destroyer, destroying anything that's negative or toxic. And this field is now all around you, all around your energy field. And it is going to burn away and dissolve anything that's being thrown your direction. It is going to make sure that doesn't enter your energy field. So no matter what's coming at you, you can respond in love. And I want you just kind of feel what that feels like, that now you are divinely protected. And I just want you to visualize and feel what that feels like, that any fear, worry about what could happen is not there now. It's, you are protected and you can surrender into this. That no matter what is thrown your way, you will be fine. You will be safe. And carry that forward, and that this energy is available to you at any time you need to visualize it. And feel how much lighter you feel, and even that stress is melted away because you're not having to be in that survival fear mode from whatever's being thrown out that isn't necessarily your mirror. It's just what's going on in the world right now. Now I want you to do a couple more. Inhale in, exhale out inhale through the nose, exhale through the nose. One more time. And the only incantation is, and you don't even have to say it, just, you can even say it in your head unless you feel like you need to say it. I call on Archangel Michael and Goddess Kali to co-create with my higher self to protect you from anything outside of you that may dim your light or try to harm you. I call on Archangel Michael and Kali to co-create with your higher self to protect you from anything that is coming your direction or that is actually physically harmful to you, to protect you and to dissolve whatever that is that's coming at you that's not yours. One more inhale in, and then an exhale out. And then if you did go into a deeper meditative state, just wiggle your fingers and toes, open your eyes, because this message is going to be a doozy and we got to be in the right space for it. And so part of this was for me too, because this is a doozy of a message. This is going to be from SaLuSa, the history of Earth, and kind of the systems that are at play right now and how we can transcend it. That's the wording that's being that was given to me, and then I'm going to try to jump in and try to get to this message, because I'm going to try to do this as concisely as possible, but it feels like SaLuSa has a lot to say on this matter, so we shall see. Okay, I'm going to try to get really into this to really channel this, because it's been a little harder the past couple of days to really do this. Hello, everyone. You may not have heard of me, but the person giving this message has. I am SaLuSa from Sirius. In previous times, people like me that are celestial beings from other planets within this solar system have been confused to be gods of this world, or have taken on this role of God. I've never seen myself as a deity of there, but just a celestial being that has concern about the planet that you call Earth. There is a large history of that kind of led to where things are at now. And we want to give you a history of how we got to this point, and what was here before, and what this planet was supposed to be in the beginning. And I am one of the messengers from the Galactic Federation of Light, and a lot of us are either Andromedan, Ashtar Command, which is the defense arm, the Pleiadians, and the Sirians from the Sirius star system. But in this message, we're going to talk about this past part and the mistakes that have been made and the lessons learned that's going to help us guide the parameters of what it would take to break out of this system of control that you're under right now. And the only reason the person delivering this message can even communicate what I'm about to say is that he got to read a book from a college friend on Sheldon Neidle's First Contact, which talked about the history of Earth, Mars, and then this planet called Maldek. So in the beginning, Earth was this beautiful blue planet that didn't have any life on it at this point, was starting to get some land. And many in the other solar systems that are of a different frequency and dimension than your three-dimensional bodies wanted a way to recreate a three-dimensional experience as part of a spiritual training, because as celestial beings, we vibrate at a higher frequency. We have crystalline bodies, even though we're closer to human form than you may realize. At least those of us in Sirius are pretty similar to maybe Scandinavians or even albino Neanderthals, as in our height and our gaits, to kind of help you better see what we look like. And in that beginning, we started sending people here, and by we, those that are now part of the Galactic Federation of Light many, many, many millions of years later. But we had this realm that we were doing, and it was an experiment between free will and forced will. And there were other planets. It's like our outpost was Maldek, and then there was Mars. Mars was more of the forced will side of the equation. Earth was still experimenting with free will, and Maldek was kind of the governing planet between the two. In time, there was a war that broke out between these two, entities in Earth and Mars, and wanted to do forced will. And to stop the forced will of Mars coming onto Earth, they wanted to be separates from Mars and have their own autonomy to do reign the planet the way they saw fit. And that didn't happen. As these beings were a little more evolved than what today's humans are on this planet, they had access to weapons that were as destructive as what's on your planet now. Microwaves, EMP pulses, interscalar weapons, nuclear devices, nuclear weapons, etc. And in the process of this war, two things happened. Earth went with how you would call a preemptive strike towards Mars, and actually hit Maldek instead, blowing it to pieces. And it killed everyone that was on that planet that didn't have a way to transcendentally get out of there. Because on that planet, some were able to go by consciousness and move about in that way. That planet was dissolved, and that is what today is the Kuiper Belt that is now beyond Mars. The weapon was so strong that it not only blew all the planet to pieces, that was larger than Earth and Mars combined, but it also took out the atmosphere in Mars at that point. So as that happened with the guiding planets, the only solution we had, which was another forced will thing, was to the survivors, and that everyone got to Earth, that were not part of the spiritual game, which there was some intermingling that caused this to transcend just an experiment to human lives, for lack of a better term, that were not part of the spiritual experience and were not multi-dimensional beings. We had to delete the memories of the past. And in some ways, that parable is similar to what you would call the story of Adam and Eve, though it is a little bit different. But the example is probably the best way to illustrate what this is. It brought an innocence back to this planet. But with the Kuiper Belt, it also kind of quarantined, because now we had humans that did not have all of the access to the higher realms. The pineal gland, for example, is calcified. The brain was much more mammalian, kind of like yours today, and continued on as such, and had the capacity to kill and destroy, which is what we did not want to carry beyond this realm. And many iterations over time started an evolution, in the battle of free will and forced will reared its head again with Lemuria and the fall of Lemuria, which would be about the time of Pangea, we would say. And then you had the fall of Atlantis. Then you had the several other iterations where societies fell in forced will or pestilence, or a combination of things. Fall of Rome, even though that's to a lesser extent. And with each of these, the lesson is that forced will versus free will, when forced will is used, the consequences are much greater than the benefits. Unfortunately, that system is there today. So we're going to fast forward onto the part of the systems today that has carried over. And the person giving the message kind of laid out what happened at the time of Jesus, and then the fall of Rome, fall of Greece, and then a religious order as a government that you would call the Catholic Church, even though that's kind of still a broad generalization of it. It was a top-down order based on religion, forcing the will on people because they feared of what could happen if force will was done that's like towards them. But what this has done over 2 millennia, it's created these systems of control, and it's keeping the masses just barely above water, just enough to keep going, and too much in survival mode to have the time or the ability, or at least that's what they hope, to question how they're being ruled, to question why things are the way they are, the scarcity economics, the lack of anything really benefiting what you would call the masses, what Marx would call the proletariat. And the formula for this control is pretty simple. You create an economics of scarcity. You have leaders that hoard everything they need to keep their power, to not have to feel lack, and to have enough to be able to quash any legitimate overthrowings that may be attempted. And this has been seen time after time again, and then there'd be these reformations. And we would say, even though the person who's delivering this message has not talked about much of him, Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai actually talks about things from a systems science perspective and the systems of control. And the principle and the premise of that is mostly accurate. There's still a little more nuance to it than that, but it is a good starting point to explain. In the modern sense of it, there's kind of three pieces. Keep the people divided and blame an issue or a situation on another group of people. This is a tactic called divide and conquer. This is one that's been used for as far back as you can think of in the earthly reality. This was even one of the tactics used that caused the war between Mars and Earth and the destruction of Maldek. And then you have this superiority complex. We know better, we're better than you attitude. And then this puts a hierarchy in the order of people. And what that ends up doing is creating another system of war, because if you are the one being persecuted or looked down upon and you've had enough, you will defend yourself, you will fight back. And that is a piece in this 3D reality. It's a very conflict-driven reality. It has been that way for millions of years. And then you create these things that look like they're going to solve your problems. You have this political leader that's trying to garner up this group of people. And even in the ways top-down religion is playing a role. And there's the term harvesting of souls. And this is another mechanism of divide and conquer. And to divide people into all of these factions, or even look at how identity politics has been done on your planet, which is a foreign concept to us. And all these groups are separate themselves and self-segregate. And this creates a further divide to dilute the ability to come together to even get to a critical mass. And let's jump to critical mass, because this is very important. Critical mass is roughly 30%. But in this reality, when looking at force will versus free will, the way that it will not get better is if a tit-for-tat approach is done. It's a armed or violent rebellion is not going to transcends you from the order of the day. It's just moving chess pieces. What is going to be very important for each one of us, each one of you, is to utilize in your own free will. And you have to become crystal clear on what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. And this is how we operate in the realm, what you would call the higher realms. We're just a little different dimension than what 3D reality Earth is, but we're still a dimensioned being. That boundaries is a form of love, and that's our defense mechanism, and we don't accept, and that isn't something we have control over in our own personal spheres. We can say no to something, and this is loving to say no in this instance, and it is loving to then disengage with a person or people that don't respect those boundaries. This is a different frequency than if you then go into political battle. I'm right, you're wrong, I'm a winner, you're a loser mindset, because what that does, again, it moves the chess pieces. It allows a pendulum to swing. And in a free will approach that's based on love, and we are of love, we have respect for this planet, but we cannot intervene either, because that would be forced will. So when we can find someone to communicate with, we will communicate with them and impart what we know, and especially the lessons learned from our mistakes, because if those mistakes keep continuing, your reality does not change. So what does that look like? And the first thing is to be clear in yourself. It's like, and clear out any of the trauma and hurt the best you can. To then be in love, be present, be in the moment. Get your frequency as pure as you can get it, so then you can unite with like-frequencied souls. This is a different energy than just segregating from group A and group B based on an identity group, because this is coming into how you accelerate progress is through working with people in the same frequency. And there are some frequencies that in the short term you may not work with, and that is fine. It doesn't mean that they're lesser than or greater than, it just is. But this is an important step in shifting this paradigm, because a third way through free will is going to be the only viable way to make any change on this planet. And it looks like it starts small, working on your own personal sphere, collaborating with people that are like frequencied. Notice that we did not say like-minded, because like-minded creates a hive mind, and a like frequency is these are people with the right harmonics for you to be able to co-create what you need to create, with differing ideas being a part of that as like a symphony. Because you may have, for an example, and this is the one that the person delivering the message can say best. It's like you've got all these different symphonies. You've got the Berlin Philharmonic Orchestra, and then you've got this other orchestra in another place. They don't necessarily play together. They may play even some of the same songs, but they're co-creating in their own little sphere based on a like frequency and shared organization, so to speak. And this is going to be the way that progress can happen faster. It is not going to directly challenge the system of order, because doing that is going to engage in this dualism that has kept this reality so dense and dark. And while we're on that tangent of dense and dark, there's other disruptors at play here, and this is very important to acknowledge, but it is up to you to decide whether you want to disengage from them or not. Look at algorithms of your social media, Facebook or Meta, TikTok, and when you have the feed that allows you to what you call doom scrolling, what is the common theme of that? And when you take a step back, it is to maximize emotion, to keep you scrolling. But what does that do to your brain? It triggers this part of the brain that is of survival. It is a gene in the mammalian brain, similar to chimpanzees and apes and baboons, that humans also have, to this comparison of what could be a threat that is different than you, and to rile up the emotion. And there's a multiplier effect, because as this person who's delivering the message has said, the infrastructure that relays all of this communication goes through your water towers, and this energy goes into your water, this energy goes into your food, and then you have the news on the airways and you play that and it's going into the ethers. The frequency of that, it's like there is a model of media, and it is all about maximize fear and then catapult what is called propaganda, to then get you to be in a certain frequency and a certain non-action, or in the defense, in a survival sort of way that keeps you disempowered, and that makes you look suspicious to your fellow man, fellow neighbor. And this is what is keeping this world stuck. While we can't say you need to do this, it's when you recognize that these frequencies and these actions are amplifying conflict energy unnecessarily, and even getting to where certain minds are susceptible to them for one reason or another, this keeps the cycle going. And the person who delivered this message got to see many moons ago Ray Bradbury speak, and he said how, and the question was asked to them by the person delivering the message, how do you stay so happy compared with what you write? Because some of his things that he writes is a little darker, like Fahrenheit 451. And he said, I turned off the news. How simple and yet perfect that message is. Because if we all did that, and we all became present, working on what we want to create in the world, and we have our frequency as pure as possible, we can get to the point of being able to co-create and create a frequency that's not of the news, that is equally a, lack of a better term, contagion, as what is being portrayed in the news, and actions through politics and actions through companies. Everything is interwoven together to keep things exactly as they are. But is that acceptable to you? If it's not acceptable to you, we extend the invitation of that third way, creating what you want to create in the sphere with the light people. And this also adds another piece. It is assumed when you're not in that manifestor creator mindset, but in fear and scarcity, that everything is finite and scarce. Well, generally that is true in a three-dimensional reality. As humans are starting to learn again in quantum physics and string theory, all of these things are energy. Currency is an energy. Love is an energy. Water is an energy. Every being, every rock is an energy. It all has a torus. It all has an electromagnetic and energy field. So if that is true, and we start focusing on what we want to create instead of what we don't have, or this economic system stopping you, or politics are stopping you, what if in shifting out of that and then co-creating with the like frequency people, whatever that is, that you now have undone the bottleneck that has kept you stuck and has kept you small and has kept you from truly the spiritual and divine being, and as Archangel Michael would say, unique frequency of God, that we're not all separate. We're all a flavor of God, as that's the best term in the earthly reality, so we use that term. And just what difference does that make? And through that, critical mass can happen. And at critical mass, you can just say, no more. We don't accept this. And then that's that. It's not in a challenge. It is out of love. No, this isn't, I do not accept this and will not accept this. And it puts it in a very different energy. It is a non-combative conflict energy, but it is one of love. Because if you don't hold your own boundaries, and if you don't hold to what is your core in a very loving defense manner, then you are still activating that conflict energy that is based on scarcity, fear, and survival. And that is what we encourage you to transcend. And we just want to extend our love and gratitude for those of you that are waking up to this, because in this reality, we know it is very, very difficult. We tried to do an iteration of this back in 2010 to 2012 and kind of had to pull back on that because of some other events that had to happen in the world. And some of you may be surprised to know that we have had conversations with leaders and have had to fill out the lay of the land here to see what approach is going to be best in trying to get the earthly civilization into what Dr. Stephen Greer, who has done transcendental meditation and contacted extraterrestrials like myself, to a level 1 species. Level 1 species is not considered dangerous to the rest of the solar system and galaxy. Level 0 acts as a quarantine, various gravitational, radiational things to keep that energy in its place. And in the end, we know that is not sustainable, but we cannot alter this through forced will either, because that will also have negative consequences and not transcend this beautiful planet energetically the way it needs to level up. So we invite you to look at this from a different way. Consider not doom scrolling. Consider not watching the news, not out of putting your head in the sand, but in controlling what you can control right now and build that in this cliche called hidden in plain sight, as that is the liberator of everything is going to start with you and not in the political sense of the word. A true spiritual liberation is going to be the liberation, and that transcends any philosophical system or God, and will also transcend systems that are doomed to fail in time through excesses, which you've seen capitalism as the system that you call that here fail many a time, and we've seen empires fall for the same thing with this hubris and excess. So keep trying the best that you can, and we see all the work that a lot of you have done, and we have compassion for those that may not be interested in what we have to say or cannot hear us. But nonetheless, it's like we do have love for this beautiful blue planet, and you do have a beautiful planet, and something that, a way of experiencing that we don't get to experience in our different dimensionality. And with that, we just say thank you for listening, and hope that this message hits you right to consider another way of being and doing things. And with that, I am SaLuSa of Sirius. Oh. Okay. Okay. I was actually struggling with some of the stuff coming through because it was coming through like a fire hose, and we're already at 40 minutes, so this was a little longer, but I think it's going to be necessary. If you do have any questions on any of that, post a comment or whatnot, because this is really hard for me to explain, actually. But in 2011 was the first time I heard of SaLuSa, and then I relied on my college best friend who was big into extraterrestrials and everything I was hearing, it's like, okay, am I crazy? And then he's like, no, you might be crazy, but not for that reason. But the message, I think, is important for all of us. We have an opportunity and an invitation to change that frequency and flip that script to what do we want to co-create, and hone in on our frequency to attract those very people that can be our co-creators, and creating community in a voluntaristic sort of way, which I think is going to be the only viable way forward. I hate saying it in those terms, and I'm putting it in very black and white 3D language, but I see that is going to be our challenge going forward, because we've seen what conflict energy, we've seen what politics with the two-party system and duality is doing, and we're not getting anywhere. And it's going to get messier, unfortunately, but we just have to hold our light and be in love and be present, because that does have an effect. Bless our food, bless our water. And we'll see if we get any more where I'm posting messages, because I am getting some of those channelings, but it does actually take quite a bit out of me, because I'm not a daily channeler, and this is only recently that I've felt empowered enough to actually share what's coming through me when I get it, because sometimes it's happening while I'm driving or while I'm delivery driving. It's like, wait, I'm not ready yet. So I hope all of you are staying safe and be well. Use your instincts right now, because the energies are very, very powder keg conflict energy. So whatever you use for protection, I would encourage it. Not out of fear, but just to be there, but be present and be in love is literally all we have control over right now. And then just try to, based on that, and then co-create and go from there. I think that's our invitation to all of us, and some days even for me are better than others on that. Today was definitely one of those challenging days, and I did a post about that with my snow video. If you want to go see, I kept it as loving as I possibly could, but it's like, sometimes you're not invited to do things, and human design as a projector, it's like, you're not invited, you're done, so it's like not for you. So all right, I'm gonna stop it there so this doesn't get to 45 minutes, because I still have to edit this. I hope you all have a good day or evening whenever you see this, and work schedule is getting more chaotic, so I'm going to do these as I can. My bigger focus is human design, but I'm going to try to get some time in nature when it warms up, so I can get inspired of what is coming through me as guided meditations, and try to at least impart what I can for visualizations on that, to help us keep our heads on a swivel and try to lift the vibration a little bit in times that a lot of people are scared. So all right, you have a good rest of the day, night, evening, and I will see you soon.